Hello, welcome to another episode of To The Edge. With me as a guest today is Rashelle Cooke.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, from what I understand, you're actually an up-and-coming director and producer.
Yes, I've directed my first 2 short films last month, actually. It was actually through the help of Bridgewater State University, and I'm coming out of Taunton, Massachusetts. So I'm really glad to be on the show and show my films.
Absolutely. So you submitted your film, it was A Sister's Bond, to the BSU Campus Movie Fest?
Yeah, the Campus Movie Fest, it was actually my professor in videography class. He suggested that we submit a film. It was my very first film. The Campus Movie Fest is basically a student-run festival where students have a chance to make a film in 1 week, and the film has to be 5 minutes or less. So I make the film in 1 week, and it's about like 3 minutes long. The film is basically about a young woman who gets a tragic phone call from back home. It's a silent film, so there's no dialogue, but there's beautiful music that runs throughout that basically tells the story. The composer was Sean McCall, and I really loved the music and everything. It really just tells the story. So.
Yes, I saw the film and I thought it was great.
Thank you.
And it's also available on YouTube for people to see.
Yeah, you can also, it's on under my username as well, Rashelle Cooke. But I think that the film has, and it needs some improvements, but I think that it's pretty good for my first film, so.
So what gave you the idea to put together A Sister's Bond? The
scene actually, it comes from a feature-length screenplay that I did called The Sun Sets on Tokyo Bridge. So the scene, it's basically a scene from that screenplay. It's about also a young black woman who grows up in the 1960s during racial tension, and it takes place when she aspires to be a rock and roll artist. So you follow her during the 1970s, basically, and that scene comes from that. It's also metaphorically based on basically when you think you've lost a relationship with a brother or a sister. In the film, her brother, you see that something has happened to her brother, but in real life it's basically metaphorical for, I've lost a relationship with my brother. So, but instead of showing that we've lost a bond, that we used to have this very strong bond, that we grew up together, and that's lost, I basically, he gets sick, instead. So that's basically what it shows.
And from what I understand, you also co-produce a public access series for this station.
Yeah, it's called The Hero in You. The host is actually Jensen Denoyes and Lizandra Gomes, and I'm the associate executive producer of the show. It's about self-development and self-empowerment, and the show uses comic book characters and comic book plots to drive its many points across. So our new episode is coming out in June. It's about innovation, so stay tuned for that.
Good, I look forward to it.
Thank you.
You've also been working on another film, What's the Problem with Bill Weiner? And I have to ask, what is the problem with him?
Some people commiserate that love is unobtainable or unreachable, that love is non-existent. They'd rather believe this than to believe that maybe they're undeserving and unwilling to accept the love they claim they seek. Bill Weiner is this type of man. Oftentimes when people make films about unrequited love, they make films through the point of view of the rejected, but I decided to take on the point of view of a middle-aged, bitter, divorced white man, and that's basically where this film, that's where this film comes from.
It's definitely an interesting dynamic because normally, as you say, you see the person who keeps getting rejected and they're like, I'm gonna go for her or I'm gonna go for him, and then eventually they finally end up together in the end. It's like a fairy tale.
But this film isn't a fairy tale, and some people, like I've shown this film, some people like it, and then some people, it rubs them the wrong way because the story has a non-traditional arc. A lot of people like happy endings, but in life, sometimes there are no happy endings. And in all my films, the endings are ambiguous and it's not always going to be happy because life isn't that way.
That's the way I actually like films to be, actually, to throw you a curve. I actually submitted an idea to someone that I produce a film where you see two characters and they're discussing something and something happens, but at the end you have no idea what actually happened and you could interpret it as either way, and it's left to the audience to decide.
And that's the best kind of film, because when you come away from that, you're thinking, and that's what films today lack. Like, you come away with that with nothing. You need to be thinking and actively using your mind. You know, things shouldn't be always spelled out for you. You have to like be thinking. So
Sometimes these films even go a step further. Instead of simply just spelling things out for you, they also do like a pop psychology analysis of the characters.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see the antagonist say, "Hey, look, protagonist, this is everything that's wrong with you.
Yeah, exactly.
I can manipulate you."
yeah. But through what I would like to do with my films is establish what's wrong with the character through their actions and through visuals. Like, for instance, in the film What's the Problem with Bill Weiner, there isn't a whole lot of dialogue. There's music, which that's another thing. Like, I love to use music, and I would hope to, when in the future making more films, to keep using music to basically establish the emotions of the character instead of just having them say it. Some people will like that and some people won't, but that's how I like to tell a story, with music.
It's good, it's different. You don't see enough of that these days.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the process of actually putting together either of these films?
Well, A Sister's Bond, like I said, that was done in just a week. So with Campus Movie Fest, they give us equipment. They give us the camera. We shot it with a mini DV. They give us the tripod, and they gave us an Apple computer with all the editing software. Mm-hmm. So I actually used my siblings. Two of my sisters are actually interested in acting. So our schedules conflicted, so that was, hard to do. But basically, I just use a schedule. I give it to everybody. I just plan around their schedules, and we basically did it in 2-3 days, like over the weekend.
Wow.
Thanks to Jim Moore from the Bridgewater State University, they gave us some help. They gave us some equipment. Sometimes you're gonna run into some problems, like the light might blow, which is what happened with us, or the first scene where you see the young woman sitting at the train tracks. That was not originally supposed to happen. We ran into some problems, but my brother's like, "Oh, why don't we just use the train tracks?" So we did that, and it came out beautifully. So there were some problems, but like when you're a director, you have to make, quick decisions, and, thankfully it came out. It came out good, so.
How much of a crew did you have?
On A Sister's Bond, it was just me and the actors, my siblings. So that was also it was very difficult to direct and work the camera at the same time. I did the camera and I also directed, but it was a great experience, because I found out a lot about myself, that I like to do that. I like to be the director of photography on a movie. And so I can use that love for visuals, and camera, working the camera, I can take that into future movies. For What's the Problem with Bill Weiner, during videography class, it was my former classmates Steve Peterson and Nick Lyons. It was us. Steve Peterson was the assistant director, and Nick Lyons, he was the camera assistant. And so we shot that film on the campus, and we shot that in 2 days. So.
Good. Now, obviously, the latter film, What's the Problem with Bill Weiner, that wasn't intended for the film festival. So what format do you intend to showcase that film?
I intend to it's on my YouTube page, Rashelle Cooke also, and I intend to just keep going on shows and showing them, maybe showing them to festivals. I would like to go to the Film Mixer meet and greet in Connecticut and show it. I've never traveled by myself like that and show films, but that's just the next step, so I'm excited to do that.
I agree. Connecticut's really fun too. They have a lot of mountains as well.
Yeah, I love mountains, so.
Producing a film that's kind of like climbing a mountain.
It is. It's extremely hard. I think I like directing and writing much more than I like producing, but I am a producer, and so it has to happen.
What got you interested in film?
Actually, it started with X-Men First Class in 2011. Actually, that's when I started screenwriting. I loved that movie so much. I've always been interested in animation, Toonami and anime and things like that since I was a child, and I wanted to be a cartoonist. And then I realized when I was like 21, I realized I loved film also, and so I wanted to make my own cartoon series, which I did. It's called Zodiacos. It deals with the constellation, the constellation in zodiac monsters and things like that. So basically, it was my love for anime, Toonami, great movies like X-Men First Class. Basically, my love for the movies and the cartoons that I grew up with.
Do you use any animation programs?
I actually can't animate. I write the stories and everything, but I'm looking for animators and illustrators to help me do that. I understand it's a collaborative.
Definitely.
Yeah, so like I would like to work with animators and illustrators who can do it much better than I could ever do it.
Plus you have all those cells that you have to animate. And 24 frames per second, that's 24 pictures per second.
Yeah.
Times that by the number of minutes.
Yeah, like I know it's extremely difficult, so I'm hoping that I can I've already written 5 episodes, and I have worked with some illustrators who have drawn some cartoon characters, but I'm hoping to get back into writing more episodes this summer.
Are they full length, like 20 minutes, or are they short?
They're each of the scripts are 30 pages, so 30,
Oh, wow.
30 minutes.
Yeah, that's flat out full length. You've got a regular series going if you could sell that.
Definitely, I would definitely like to sell it. I think we need more great cartoons. Cartoons are not just for kids, adults can enjoy them as well. My cartoon, anybody can enjoy it, black, white, 40 years old, 15, 7, anybody can do it. Anybody can enjoy a cartoon, and I want to put that great cartoon back on the station because we lack that.
That's true. I haven't noticed any cartoons recently that really appealed to anyone older than early teens recently.
Yeah,
None that I could think of.
Well, I think the last great cartoon was Avatar: The Last Airbender, which ended in 2008. And I would just love to rival that cartoon. Because when I talk about Zodiacos, they say, oh, that sounds like Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's and then there's Transformers Prime. I think that's probably the best cartoon.
Oh, yeah,
out.
that's right. My brother's a huge fan of that show.
Yeah.
I saw the
pretty
first
good.
episode. All right, so getting back to A Sister's Bond, how has the reaction been to that film?
People, after they watch it, it seems like there's usually some quietness in the room at first, because it's people say that it gives them goosebumps. They don't, I guess people don't really know how to react to it. A lot of people don't, I guess the ending is too ambiguous. You don't really know what happens in the end. So people don't really know how to react to it, but I can promise you that it will give you goosebumps and it will make you think and appreciate the loved ones that you have in your lives, because some of us, we don't have great relationships with our brothers or our sisters and our mothers and fathers. We all don't have that. So if you have that, appreciate that. And this film, it'll make you feel that.
My interpretation is that it's a family coming together and the brother's in the bed. At first I think he might have died, but then he moves and I think, well, he's just sick, and maybe now they appreciate each other more than they did before.
Yeah, actually he didn't die. That is, a lot of people do think so. He's supposed to open his eyes and smile at her, so that lets you know that he is okay. He could be sick, that's up to the audience interpretation, but he's definitely okay because he opens his eyes and he smiles, and then you see the little sister sitting beside him on the bed. She smiles and she looks up at the window and the sun is shining through, so there's hope.
Well, I think it's very good that you actually based that off of a script that you wrote, because now you know what happened before, what happens next, and you've got all the context.
Yeah, I hope to get back to that feature-length screenplay. It needs a lot of work, but it's actually feature-length is based on in the 1970s. It's a period piece, and I know that they are much more expensive to produce in film.
Not necessarily. It depends upon the scope. If you can find locations that look like they'd fit in with the 1970s, and if you could find some period-appropriate clothes and, get the period-appropriate hairstyles, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm involved with a film called I Monroe, and we've looked for houses that look like they could have been in the 1950s, and we have people dress up in the 50s styles. We just avoid showing anything like cars or whatnot.
Yeah, that does definitely sound workable, and I can like use films like I Am Monroe as inspiration to make my own like old film, because I love old film, and we need that in the movie industry today.
Yeah. Before the 70s, they were kind of like done to death, but you don't see as many films that take place then now, so it's a bit of a novelty.
Yeah,
And a female black rock star, that's definitely a novelty.
definitely. You don't see a lot of female black leads that aren't doing anything else but being a maid or a slave or the side chick to the president, the married president. Like, you don't see more positive images of black women in film today, and so I want to bring that back to film. In a lot of my films, you will see interracial relationships. You will see a lot of black lead women that aren't being somebody's maid, isn't being a slave or some woman from the ghetto. They're going to be articulate, educated black women with something to say and interesting things that they've done in their lives.
I'm glad to see that because normally when you say, well, we want a black character, usually they just get a black man. It's like, we got the black, we've got the woman, but they never put the two together. It's like, we're the black women.
Exactly. That's exactly what I always say and what I always think when I see commercials and things. Like, I personally believe that you need the whole package. You need the black woman and the black man. And interracial is also okay, but you need black women. We don't see a lot of black women in film today. So I'm happy to like bring that back.
Absolutely. So did you run into any difficulties when you were putting together A Sister's Bond?
Yeah, just like the technical problems, like a light blowing. So for instance, in the housing scenes, like in the interior scenes when you're inside the house, the light that we were given, that blew, so I had to I had to think fast. I was like, how am I gonna get light into the house? So I had to like open up the window, and thank God it was sunny that day, so I just let all the sunlight in. And you just like deal with the aperture and things like that on the camera, things that I've learned in videography class. So just thank God that I had those things to work with to make the light better. And then like if locations aren't working, like you can't use a location that you were planning to use, you have to just look around and be like, okay, this will work. And so that's basically what we did.
Right. In the films that I've been involved in, we've had to block light so that it stays looking the same during a shoot that lasts potentially up to 12 hours or longer.
Yeah.
And the sun's always a nightmare. It's like the co-director almost. It's telling you when you can and can't shoot things.
Yeah,
if you're not careful. I think that we should watch a clip from the film right now. Actually, the whole film, A Sister's Bond.
Okay.
Like I said, that was really great.
Thank you.
For the first time ever, I think that we'll be able to get a chance to see what's the problem with Bill Weiner.
Yeah, like I said, the story has a non-traditional story and character arc. You know, there are some people out there, they claim to look for love and want love, and when they finally find love, they do everything in their power to ruin it because they don't believe that they deserve love, or they're not used to being loved, they're not used to being treated the way that they should be treated. They're used to the status quo, they're used to the drama. They want that, they're comfortable with that. So I wanted to show that, you know, it happens and it's a shame, but you know, we turn it into art. So.
Well, let's take a look at that right now.
What's wrong with me? I'm a nice enough guy. It shouldn't be this difficult.
Excuse me. Is this seat taken? I thought that was really interesting. Oh, geez, look at the time. I gotta go. I'm sorry. Give me a call later, okay?
She's treated me better than my last 4 girlfriends. The sweetest woman I've met in a long time. She's actually wife material.
She's also younger. Significantly younger. How do I know she won't get tired of me in a year or two after I'm in deep and leave me like my ex-wife did? They're all the same anyway. She's gonna get bored with me, so why should I wait till it all turns to shit? I'll be 40 heartbroken and alone once again. I have to do it. It's for the best.
So you mean to tell me that you're not even going to give us a chance? After 5 months of stringing me along, you're not ready to commit to me? After everything?
You're not ready for a long-term relationship, Celeste.
Look, I've told you. No, I showed you what I want, Bill. And that's you.
What else do you want me to say?
Damaged goods.
I just want to find love. Is that too much to ask?
And that was great.
Thanks.
You know, I really appreciate that we have filmmakers who think outside the box because the projects stand out. They're not like everything else.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it too. Like filmmaking, like you get to just do what you want to do. Like for instance, a lot of people told me, "Oh, you can't make a film where the character is one way in the beginning and the same way in the end." I say, "Well, sure I can," and here it is. You know, like you don't have to follow rules. You don't have to do that all the time. If you're the director and you're the writer, you don't have to follow somebody else's rules. You can do whatever you want. And you know, for anybody that's just coming into filmmaking like I am, a beginner, yeah, I just want people to know that, you know, just do what you want to do, and you know, you can make it great.
I think one thing that really hamstrings the film industry is the idea that it has to be this way. That's why they all look the same, because they have to follow this way that it has to be. Like
Yeah.
characters, for instance, I don't think that people necessarily change. They just become older versions of who they were before.
Yeah.
I mean, no one does a complete 180 that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, there is that old saying, young fools grow up to be old fools, and Bill Weiner is an old fool. You know, like there are people like this. So, you know, the story is based on I write a lot of personal narratives, a lot of things that I've seen or experienced, or a lot of things that I feel. And I've seen people like Bill Weiner. They are out there. Even my mother told me, you know what, I used to be Bill Weiner. A lot of people can relate to Bill Weiner. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with bending the rules, especially when you're the director and you're making all the choices. There's nothing wrong with bending the rules. You can make it work.
And that's a great note to end on. Thank you for watching To the Edge, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.